Okay, so tell me what you think about when I say these foods. Ice cream, pizza, bacon, cheese, bread, rice, chicken, chips. Yes, tell me. When I say all these things, think of any food. Think of anything. Spaghetti, macaroni, sausage, whatever, chips, cornflakes. Are you excited as I say these foods? Are you nervous? Do you feel any type of way? Do you feel that some foods are bad while some other foods are good? I would love to know what your reactions are. Today, we are going to be discussing eating problems and eating disorders. And my name is Funmi Ayowole. So we're talking about food and mood and tackling eating disorders. Food can be a very sensitive thing for some people, while for some other people, it's a thing of joy. I was in my small group of friends in church on Wednesday night, and for some reason, I can't remember, we were talking, okay, we were about to pray about something, and someone was praying and she was comparing the blood of Jesus. Forgive me, guys. She was comparing the blood of Jesus to maybe peanut butter and jam on toast or something funny like that. And I was like, babe, everything always links back to food with you. She loves food. She said and confessed, she said that she thinks that she's in a much more intimate relationship with food than with her husband. She was joking, but it made me think about what people's relationships are with food. How do they think about food? How do they relate? What do they associate with food? What memories do they have when they think about certain types of food? In the promotional post for this live webinar, I asked that, were your mom and dad, were they generous with protein? Did they save the meat for the last? Did they say, oh, you can get ice cream or pizza if you're a good boy or a good girl? So what was food like for you? Was it a method of reward, or did people keep food away from you as a punishment? I would really, really want to know. And then as we move on, really, I want to just explain that eating problems is when you have any type of relationship with food that may be difficult to you, or that you may find difficult. It may be caused by emotional triggers. Sometimes when you're happy, you're sad, you're afraid, you're angry, you're tense. Some people, they eat when they're happy, they're eating when they're bored, they're eating to celebrate something, they're eating when they feel nervous. So sometimes eating can mean a lot of different things to different people, and that is the most important thing we're about to discuss now. Because as you guys may have realized, I like to get down to the root of a problem. So we could be talking about any emotional or mental eating disorder, but any emotional or mental eating disorder, but we need to get down to what are the root causes, what is the underlying factor, what are the thoughts that come to your head when you think about food or certain types of foods. To differentiate, food problems are when you have a difficult relationship with food, and I will explain further, and that is a broad category. But then you also have eating disorders, which are medically diagnosed. Okay, so most of the time when you go to a doctor, they'll measure your BMI, that is your body mass index. They will measure your weight, they'll measure your habits, your eating habits. Moturayo says, I know for most men, they get unbelievably upset when they are really hungry. Okay, so Jijemimo on, I'm pronouncing your name really, really fast, but well, it's your business name. So on Instagram, you said that is your major problem too. I think what you mean is that your major problem is that you become unbelievably upset when you're really hungry, right? So for you, when you are hungry, it triggers an emotional reaction, which is anger or rage. That's interesting. Food eating disorders. We've been talking about different reactions people have to food, thoughts that come into their minds whenever they are thinking about food. You could maybe, for example, when you think about food, you feel it is poison. You feel that it may be disgusting. You may classify some foods as good and some other foods as bad. That also is an issue. It's a major issue that we're going to treat as the time goes on. And so for some people also, they have food may be a coping mechanism for them. So it's the way that they deal with their feelings of rage, of loss, of hatred, self-hatred, of fear. Some people avoid food altogether when they're feeling these things. Food also may be their own way of staying in control. I read about somebody that said that, oh, when her parents were getting divorced, the only thing she could control was her food intake, because no one can force her to eat and no one can force her not to eat. So for her, food was a means of taking back her control, right? So people express different things and situations in their lives through their relationships with food. On Instagram, Gigi says, I've come to develop a work relationship with food. That is, I don't see it as something my body needs. So I am around food, yet I am starving. So just as a bit of background, Gigi Mimo is in the catering business, and she's saying that she has developed a work relationship with food. That's interesting. So for you, you probably see food as just a product, right? And not something that you or your body needs. That's very interesting. Mo says, she says, same way you can get the best of men when you satisfy their hunger quest. So she's also speaking about some of the men in her life where she feels, as she has observed on Instagram, this is Mo speaking on Instagram, that when men are hungry, they get very, very angry and cranky. Gigi says, I eventually get cranky, weak, and not really as productive as I should be. It's really good that you are self-aware, Gigi, about the things that happen when you do not treat food or put food in its proper place. Okay, so let's talk about some characteristics of eating disorders. We've mentioned some of them already. When you have a restrictive relationship or a rigid relationship with food, maybe you cut out some food groups and you say, oh, I'm not eating carbs at all. Yes, there are some diets that encourage this, so for example, you have keto diet, paleo diet. Some of these diets cut out whole food groups. Some diets say, oh, any fruit that has sugar, no, you don't want it, or you're not supposed to eat it. Some other diets, some other diets cut out fats completely. Sorry. But it's interesting for us to note that all these foods are there for a reason. Now, as a coach, I'm not going to recommend a particular course of action or a specific diet for you, but I would love to recommend the fact that you are supposed to be balanced. And balance can come in different forms. You find out that there are some foods that you need to increase your productivity, to up your energy levels, to up your mood in a healthy way. Thank you. In a healthy way, not in a way that causes even more pressure on your digestive system or pressure on your blood and your insides. So it's very important for us to understand the concept of balance when it comes to eating. Okay, so as I was talking about some eating problems and eating disorders. Hi, Hawa. Thank you very much for joining on Instagram. We also have some other characteristics of eating problems or eating disorders, such as eating in secret. Some people don't want others to know that they are eating, whether they feel ashamed or not proud of just the fact that they are putting food in their systems, or they are not proud of the exact type of food they're eating, or they sneak around to eat certain types of food. And it's extremely important for us to note that that is an eating problem, or an eating, it can lead to an eating disorder. And I said that eating disorders are, I won't call them extreme, because that would be assuming that eating problems are not real problems. They are. But eating disorders are diagnosed medically, and it takes into account your BMI, your eating habits, the records of your energy levels, whether or not you're increasing in weight or decreasing in weight rapidly. And so, just as a side note, eating disorders, for example, include anorexia, bulimia. There's another one, binge eating, which also is a problem in itself. But anorexia and bulimia are the most common ones that everybody knows. If for some reason you don't know what anorexia or bulimia is, let me know so I can answer that. But I'll assume that people know what those eating disorders are. Then you have excessive eating. Even after you feel full, you keep eating and eating. You can't stop yourself. Sometimes there's someone that shared with me that she's afraid of going to buffets. All those all you can eat, maybe in restaurants, or if you go to a party and it's a buffet, so you have the option of picking whatever you want to eat yourself. That's what I mean by a buffet. This lady is afraid of going to buffets, and it's a real problem, because for her, she can't stop eating. She can't stop piling her plate, putting food in her mouth. So she avoids those kind of social interactions. She avoids things that have to do with food. That in itself is a problem, right? You would agree with me that it is. And then some people feel out of control when they're eating. For some reason, it's odd, but it's true. They feel out of control when they are eating. Sorry, I'm looking at two screens. That's why you can see my face, going from side to side. Some people, as I had said, when we talk about eating in secret, on another end of the spectrum, they're scared of eating in public. They don't like people looking at them when they're eating. Some of them, it's a mental thing where they feel like food is something to be ashamed of. In some other cases, people are obsessive and compulsive about food. Most of the time, or all of the time, they are continuously obsessing or thinking about food, about what they're going to eat next, about how, maybe they ate too much or they didn't eat enough, or what kind of food did they eat. It's just been, it's a real thing that they can be obsessive, compulsive about food, and it's a disorder in itself. Some other people, one of the ways that you know that you or someone that you know has an eating problem is when you're continuously comparing yourself, your body, to other people that you see, or your shape to other people. And as a result, you either increase your food intake or you decrease your food intake based on your comparisons, right? We're going to get to that afterwards, but it's just worth saying that comparison is the thief of joy. We may or may not have heard that before, but comparison is the thief of joy. And then lastly, if you feel disgusted or ugly or miserable or impure when you eat, then you do have an eating problem. And eating problems are really extreme. They can be really extreme. They also can have negative effects on our concentration, on our appearance. We may be going yo-yoing, up and down in terms of weight. They affect, of course, our weight. They affect our social interactions. They affect whether or not we go out. They affect our personality, or how do you put it, your passion. It has a way of dulling your passion, and not sometimes, if the food or the eating disorder or eating problem gets extreme, you find that you tend to stop caring about a lot of things. Your passion dulls or decreases. You sometimes or most times do not have an opinion. It's almost as if you don't have a perspective on anything, any issue, anything that counts. You don't believe in anything or trust in anything or anybody. Yes, eating problems and eating disorders can be that dangerous. Then sometimes when you are experiencing this or going through eating problems or eating disorders, you may stop work or school or doing things that matter to you, or taking part in activities that you would normally do. Maybe for some reason, you usually go to the gym, or you usually take walks, or you usually maybe go to a club, or you are part of a group that meets weekly or bi-weekly, or regularly. For some reason, you would stop. I mean, when you are experiencing these eating problems or eating disorders, it can also, depending on how bad or extreme it is, it can also cause you to be bullied and teased by others. So maybe if people have observed that you are not looking right, you are maybe eating a lot extremely, or you're eating too little, the people around you, maybe peers, younger ones, people around you, if they don't have good emotional intelligence, or they are not just sensitive or considerate human beings, most of the time they can tend to bully or tease you. Eating disorders also lead to anxiety and depression, and in some cases, anxiety and depression leads to eating disorders. So it can be a very, very warped thing. And remember, I said that we're always in every webinar that we do, when we treat anything, we will always get to the root of the matter, or attempt to. I mean, there's only so much we can do within 45 minutes to an hour. So we're going to talk about some of the deeper causes of eating problems and disorder. So here are some causes of eating problems and disorders. The first thing would be habits or traits. That is, maybe inclinations that you have about, say, how you view yourself. If you're hard on yourself, if you habitually are a perfectionist, so for some people, they believe that there has to be like strict adherence to rules and regulations when it comes to food, when it comes to their appearance, how much weight they gain, excuse me, how much food they eat in public, how they look. It's extremely important to them. So for some people, they have those traits where they're already very fussy and finicky about food and its effects on their bodies. So that already may cause an eating disorder or an eating problem. Yeah. Next, which is extremely important, is difficult life experiences or trauma and pain. When it comes to deeper issues that surround food and eating disorders, traumatic events can trigger it. So, for example, the loss of a loved one. Some people, when they are grieving, they stop eating altogether, they don't have an appetite, but just as quickly as, oh, I don't have an appetite, can be temporary, for some people it extends and drags, and so they start avoiding food altogether. So as I said, traumatic events, it could be physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. For some people, if they're experiencing some form of abuse, they avoid food. They want to use starvation to punish themselves, or they feel that eating food could be too much, too good for them. So just food is too good for them. So, and they feel that they are not good enough to enjoy good food. That is a real thing. And it may be as a result of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Other traumatic life experiences could be losing a job, moving to a new country, or, you know, experiencing some form of loss or a breakup, any traumatic, painful life experience can actually trigger an extended eating problem. Then, as I said, your view about food. You could develop this view over time. It could be based off of childhood upbringing. I asked earlier on, that were your parents generous with food? Did they ever use food as a reward or a bait or a motivation to do your house chores? Or if you were a good girl or a bad boy, was food ever like something that you would look at and long for? Was it only reserved for special days and holidays? And how was it presented to you? That always affects your view on food, or view, is it on or about, your view about food. The next thing I would say as a cause could be family issues. So if someone in your family is either overeating or binge eating and purging, what I mean by binge eating and purging is eating a lot of food, excessively consuming so much food, and then doing their best to throw it up, sticking your finger down, taking medications and laxatives that would help you to either throw it up or pass it out. So that's what we call binging and purging, right? So if there's anybody in your family that is continuously doing that, or they're continuously on a diet, you know how it is where there's some people that they continuously say, this is not good for me, or this is not on my diet, this is not on my meal plan, I can't have that. If you have people like that in your family, it tends to influence the way that you think. As I also explained as an example earlier on in the webinar, I said that there was someone whose parents was going through a divorce, and food was the only way that she was able to control it. So family issues in different forms, shapes, and sizes have a way of influencing the way have a way of influencing the way that we look at food and how we treat food, what our relationship with food is like. Wow. Mo says on Instagram, she says, as a child, whenever I got upset, I could stay 3 days without food till my request was granted. Wow, girl, that is crazy. Seriously, you would stay 3 days, you would starve yourself for 3 days in order to get your way? Well, for you, food was a weapon, right? That's interesting. So, I mean, now that you're grown, what is it like for you? Do you use food in that way? How do you view food now that you're grown, based on what you've said to me? I would love to hear your response. Okay, so other causes could be societal pressure. Mo also says on Instagram, she says, it worked for me then. So you were always getting your way then. Wow, you would starve yourself for 3 days. That is major. It's crazy. Anyway, so other causes, as I said, could be societal pressure. The images we see on TV, in magazines, on Instagram, we look at people and they look perfect. We look at people and they're eating one leaf of lettuce and one can of tuna, and they say that that's food. Not knowing, maybe for some reason, maybe they are studying or trying to starve themselves and lose massive weight for a role. I read that there's this really Christian Bale, the guy that acts Batman. Do you guys know him? I'm sure you would know him. When he was trying to get down to a certain weight for a role, an acting role, he became so emaciated. Like, he looked so gaunt and terrible. And his diet for, I think, 3 months was a can of tuna and an apple per day. Isn't that crazy? Like, I was thinking about it. I was like, how would he be able to do that? He would have to, first of all, even lock himself up. He won't be able to go out. He can't look online. He can't do anything that would tempt him to go away from his chosen diet in order to achieve his goal weight. Anyway, so that's him, of course, and he gained so much money. He's an artist of, high regard. He has won awards and all that. But my point is, don't look at what other people are doing. Don't look at the lives and the highlights of their lives that they post on Instagram, or even when you look at models, they're extremely thin. Their tummy is like ironing board, washboard, laundry boards, like so flat and perfect. Some of them are naturally like that. Some of them may have undergone some form of operation, right? Some medical procedure, and some people could be extreme. So please do not look at the lives we see on our screens as normal. And also, some people are just giving you highlights. It may not be what they're eating every day. Some people will plate an avocado and some pieces of fruit and say lunch. That's just one day. You don't know what they do. You don't know what they eat the next day. You don't know what they are eating the next minute. You don't know whether they are barfing down on ice cream right after that. Okay, so my point is, let's avoid the social pressure and let's avoid being bullied by other people. It's true. Let's avoid being bullied by other people, into their own standards or what they think. Yeah, avocado for lunch. What they think is the right eating or meal plan for you. Because the other thing I found out when I've been researching diets, there was a time when I had just given birth and I really, really needed to lose weight. I wanted to be a yummy mommy, in quotes, right? And there's so many diets out there, so many meal and eating plans. And I found that there's not one size fits all, because each person has different daily routines. Each person has different hormonal balances, what they're going through at that point in time. You can't really, truly, you can't just say this is a blanket diet for everybody. This is the best diet or way of eating for everybody. Each person, their bodies, their metabolism is completely different. You really do need to find what works best for you. Some people have naturally beautiful bodies irrespective of what they eat. What you mean, Mo, is that their metabolism may be running or burning food really fast. That's what makes it easy for them to maintain slim statures. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Who says that a slim person is beautiful and a fat person is ugly, or a chubby person is not so nice looking? All these standards of beauty are what was handed down to us. It is from the outside world. It's not what we should take on as our own standards of beauty. You can be thick and fantastic. You can be chubby and beautiful. You can be thin and ugly. Huh? So my point is, we should really be careful the standards of beauty and aesthetics that we take on into our subconscious mindsets, because of course that affects everything that we do, even our relationship with food. Okay, what else again? You could be experiencing physical or emotional or mental health issues that could cause an eating disorder. Like I had said before, some people, if they're experiencing anxiety or depression, it can lead to an eating disorder. Some people, if they're experiencing some form of sickness and that sickness is extended for a period of time, maybe some form of an extreme illness, cancer or bone disease, things that have to do with essential intestinal organs, right? And they are going through something medically, an eating disorder may develop from there and then extend. Okay, there's one last cause, which is weird, but it's true. In some people, the hormone that influences your mood, that hormone is called serotonin. in your brain. And if that hormone is down, it may cause you to be in a bad mood. That may lead to you either binge eating or avoiding food. It depends. So this biological cause is not a cause for a lot of people. It happens in some people. Also, there are hormones that affect or trigger signal to you whether you're hungry or you're full. If the hormone is not in the right, I don't know the medical term, but if it is not correct, right? If it's not at the right level and it's not working, your brain is not picking up the signals at the right time. So you tend to either eat so much and your brain won't tell you that you are full, or eat little or avoid food altogether and your brain won't tell you that you are hungry. Yeah, so those are major causes of eating disorders. Are we still here? I see that there are a couple of people on Instagram, and there's still Kimmy, you're still online. Send me a shout out, okay? You're still on Facebook. Thank you very much. Yay. Thank you very much for the hearts. Okay, so now I am studying, and very soon, I'll be a certified wellness coach. If I was to coach a person through an eating disorder, we would go step by step. And so I just want to give you guys an idea. It's going to be a quick one because our 1 hour is almost up, right? Just give you an idea of how we would have conversations concerning health. But before I do that, I want to just encourage us, it's not enough for us to just say to ourselves, a hamburger is bad, a salad is good, an avocado, because it has so much fat, is bad, and peanuts are good. My point is, avoid food labels. The most important thing is for you to say to yourself, what is healthy for me and what is unhealthy? And even then, when you're able to identify what is healthy for you and what is not healthy for you, you should also know that there's a balance, right? And you should be able to, quote unquote, indulge in something that is unhealthy maybe about 5 to 10% of the time, and the other 90% you eat healthy, because that is the sustainable way. When you have foods that altogether you cut off completely, if you do not have too much support, if maybe it is expensive to maintain, it may not be sustainable. Shout out to all our vegans in the house. Shout out to those that have completely cut carbs from their diet, or people that, like vegans, as I said, that don't eat meat at all. More power to more grease to your elbows, right? But for a lot of people, balance is the way, where you ensure that you eat healthy 90% of the time. So if I was going to coach someone through overcoming or tackling an eating disorder, we would go deeper into their motivations, into things that may or may not have happened to them in their childhood, background issues, anything that could affect their emotional health, which in turn affects the way that they view food. The next thing would be, we would discuss what their health goals are. What exactly would you like to achieve? Somebody that comes to me already knows to a large extent that they are experiencing an eating disorder. So they know that, oh, maybe I'm not eating healthy, I'm binging, I'm purging, I'm experiencing this unhealthy or difficult relationship with food. So we would discuss what are their health goals. Also, I would love to encourage all of us here, if it's something that you're thinking about, you can keep a food log or a food journal where every single thing that goes into your mouth, you write it down for 3 days to 1 week. It will open your eyes. It will let you know almost everything that is going on with you. When you keep a food journal, or journaling in general, it shows you patterns. It helps you understand uh, what was going on. So, for example, if you keep a food log that's 3 days to 1 week, you may be able to track and see, oh, was I upset at this point when I ate a whole bowl of ice cream? Or what happened when I did not eat for 8 full hours, right? So keeping a food log or a food journal is extremely important. The next thing would be, I would advise that you take an inventory of your environment. Are there triggers in your environment that make you want, see me looking around like you guys can see what I'm looking at. So are there triggers in your environment that make you want to either eat a lot of unhealthy food and or make you want to avoid healthy food? So what is it that you're looking at? Is it on your phone? Is it magazines? Is it TV? Is it maybe even in your fridge? Maybe you live with other people and you can't control what other people are eating, but all those things are tempting. We would, while you're keeping your food journal, we would also observe your energy levels. We would observe your rate of digestion, your feelings or signals of being full or being hungry. Super important. Once we're done with this, then we would engage the services or the help of a nutrition expert. I, as a coach, I'm not an expert specifically at nutrition, but we can work together to find a nutrition expert, and for that expert, whether it's a dietitian or a doctor, to recommend the exact kind of food that is best for you. Next, we would work through something that gives you staying power. So if the nutrition experts recommend a kind of meal plan, you need to be able to maintain that meal plan. You need to be able to ensure that you don't, divert or, fall off the wagon as little as possible. So we have to devise a system of a plan or a structure of you maintaining that meal plan and some form of accountability. So maybe I could be, as your coach, I could be your accountability partner, checking in on you from time to time, or you could have somebody close to you in physical proximity that could be an accountability partner. Friends and family, most of the time, are good accountability partners for you. When you want to pivot from an eating disorder, as I said earlier on, we would also discuss your motivations. Okay, so what is pushing you to succeed? What would make it easy for you to move in the direction of your goals? Of course, whatever those goals could be, are you thinking of doing or changing into the right direction based off of self? Is it something that you want to do for yourself? Is it that you want to go back to being healthy for the sake of your children, or eating healthy for the sake of your children? Maybe you want to use that to model the right way to them. Maybe you want to live long enough, right, to be there with them. It could also be that you have a long-term, you see a vision, for a long-term vision. You want to be alive when you're 60, 80, 100, to experience different parts of life, right? Or to have different life experiences, I mean. So that could also, it could also be a form of motivation for you. Lastly, let's talk about recovery and self-care. The first step, which I almost always recommend in every live webinar that we have, is journaling. Writing down your feelings, your thoughts, and emotions is the first step, because it creates self-awareness. It helps you to see patterns. It helps you to know what to avoid. That is, what are your triggers? It gives you a sense of a higher sense of self-awareness. That's the most important, and I think like a high value benefit of journaling. The second thing I would say is avoid mindless eating. So don't eat and look at your phone. Don't eat and watch a movie or watch television. Don't eat and work on the computer. When you want to eat, take that bowl of food. The most you can do when you are eating is interact with another physical human being. Okay? So if you are eating, eat. You can eat and talk, but avoid eating and screen time, because it distracts you from knowing when you are full or when you are hungry. It distracts you from the feelings and sensations, which in them, that in itself could be pleasurable. I mean, so for example, I'm drinking water and I experience the refreshment in my throat. When I am mindful, I am more, yes, when I am mindful, I am more aware of how it feels. Dear Durand on Instagram says, don't eat and watch TV. Yes, that is the truth. If you are experiencing or going through an eating problem or an eating disorder, that is the number one recommendation. Avoid mindless eating. That's what it is. When you're eating and watching TV, your body is not sending the signals. Your brain is not sending the signals to you. Your tummy is not sending signals to your brain that you are full. If you find that maybe for some reason you can't stop eating, eating and watching TV is the worst thing. Also, when you are eating, you want to do it mindfully, as I said, experiencing the textures, tasting it, looking at the colors, experiencing food for the pleasure in itself that it brings, and being able to stop when you are supposed to stop. That's why you should avoid mindless eating. Mo on Instagram also says, that sounds a little difficult, but you will try to adjust. I recommend that for real. Also, if you are experiencing an eating disorder or an eating problem, you will need to deal with other people's comments. Yeah, people can be very insensitive. Sometimes I've gained weight, or sometimes I've lost weight, or sometimes as a woman, I'm on my period, so I look a bit bloated and fat in the face. And somebody will send me a message. I'll read your comment now, GJ. Thank you, Tolu, for joining. We're almost done. So what was I saying? So someone will send me a message and say, you have gained weight, or what are you eating? Or, something really insensitive. I know a friend, not a friend, my sister who lives here in Canada with me. For some reason, she was a picture of her, she has given birth. Her son is, I think, 1 year. Yes, he celebrated his 1 year birthday in April. And for some reason, a family friend, just sends a message and says how you are fat now. That is extremely insensitive. And I specifically, till now, I still don't see whether or not she is fat in that sense. But the point is, people will say all sorts of mean things. Whether you are now very thin, or you are now very fat, or you look gaunt in the face, if you're experiencing an eating disorder, it may affect your appearance. You may need to toughen up, that is, find a way to deal with other people's comments. And when I mean deal, like take it as, or look at it as a result of their ignorance, not anything that has to do with you. Don't rely on people's comments to tell you whether or not you are progressing in recovering from an eating disorder or not. Sometimes also when you are recovering, you may look better in quotes, meaning maybe you are gaining weight, maybe you were really thin before and you're gaining weight, or you were really overweight before and you are slimming down. You may look better or healthy on the outside, but your recovery may take longer even on the inside meaning your mind. So don't let other people's comments be the measure or the standard, or the measuring stick or yardstick for your progress. Okay. The other thing is, of course, like I had said before, avoid comparisons. You're not looking at another person's body, or the body of some actor, or a celebrity, or somebody on Facebook or Instagram to tell you whether or not you are doing well. So I will not compare Naomi Campbell's tummy to mine is not even possible. It is not even possible, right? But we need to be careful about that. Okay, so avoid comparison as much as you can. The other thing that I'm going to say, and it may be controversial, is avoid fasting. If you find that you have a food or an eating disorder, that is a difficult relationship with food, fasting and breaking your fast at different times of the day can do some form of damage to your mental state. And it has a way of deepening or increasing the eating disorder, if you understand what I mean. Because in fasting, maybe if you're a Muslim, Ramadan, or Christian during Lent, or maybe for some reason you're trying to do a Daniel fast, or those kind of things, especially those that are extreme, right? Avoid fasting if you do have an eating disorder or an eating problem, a difficult relationship with food, because those times of going extremely without food has a way of affecting your mental and emotional health. Okay? I'm not saying don't fast. What I mean is, so just as a caveat, so I'm not saying that if you're a Christian or a Muslim, don't fast. I'm saying that if you already know that you are experiencing an eating disorder or problem, try to avoid fasting. Okay? The other thing I would say is, one, as you're progressing and recovering from this eating disorder, and recovery can look different to different people. Okay, so you find that for some people, recovery means that, oh, the behavior has reduced. Behavior may be eating a lot or not eating at all, binging and purging, or the thoughts that are associated with eating disorders. So, for example, viewing food as poison, being disgusted when they see food, or being anxious, right? Some of those thoughts, we talked about it at the beginning of the webinar. So if you're just joining, or you can catch the replay. So I'm saying that celebrate your small wins as you're recovering. You know that you're making progress, so celebrate those small wins. And I would also, of course, encourage self-care and time. Invest time in yourself. Take care of yourself, meaning rest, sleep, exercise, all those, and hydrate. Drink lots of water. Try and engage in fun activities. All those things are helpful when you're recovering from an eating disorder. Build positive relationships with people around you. You may want somebody to hold you accountable, to something that you have set as the right pattern. Remember, I said that we would talk to a nutrition expert if I was coaching you, and we would work out some form of meal plan for that. So my point is, have an accountability partner and surround yourself with people that are supportive. You may even be able to online find people, groups, that is peer groups of people that are also recovering from eating disorders, and they could be sources of encouragement to you. Most importantly, your friends and family must be sources of encouragement and support to you when you are recovering from any eating disorder. Lastly, talk to your doctor. You find that in some cases where it is extreme and it has progressed to an eating disorder, you may be diagnosed, and some treatment options could be brain stimulation. Remember, I talked about that biological phenomenon where the hormones in your brain that either control mood or control your feeling of being hungry or being full may be affected. So talk to your doctor. Some treatments could be brain stimulation. Some other treatments could be refeeding. So for people that are experiencing anorexia, where they are extremely thin because they do not get enough food and nutrients, you find that they need to be medically refed, with the nutrients that they need through their veins into their bodies. It's like it's a system. Then you have options of medication. You have other options of cognitive behavioral therapy. You also have psychotherapy. So those are different ways for recovery and self-care. And the last option, like I said, is for you to talk to your doctor. In fact, in some cases, that may be the first thing for you to do. But if you're talking about self-help and self-care while recovering from an eating disorder, then talking to your doctor is extremely important. What I will also say, as you guys may know, that I emphasize is that if you're not the person going through this, but somebody that you know is going through this, then it is your job or your duty to be supportive to them. And ways in which you can be supportive is you can be gentle, not angry. If you have somebody that uses food as a weapon or uses food or views food as disgusting or impure, any of those symptoms or characteristics that I explained, when you are going through an eating disorder or an eating problem, then you need to be supportive, not angry with your friend or loved one. I want to just quickly read out something Gigi on Instagram said. She said, "I feel bored when all I'm doing is just eating. I usually read, watch a screen, or even work as I eat." So when you want to eat, let me just quickly tackle that. When you want to eat or when you are eating, most of the time a meal, a standard serving or meal, a bowl, for example, whatever you're eating, it may not take, if you actually sit down to eat it mindfully, it may not take more than 20 to 30 minutes to consume. So I want to encourage you, mindfully eat. If you want, you can maybe read, that is, maybe read a magazine, read something on paper, a hard copy of something, but try to avoid screens as much as possible. Yeah. Yeah, so that's to answer to answer Gigi's comments. Okay, so I was saying that if you are a friend or a loved one of somebody that is experiencing an eating problem or disorder, don't be angry, be gentle with them. Let them know that you're there to support. Don't make assumptions. One of the assumptions, very major, that people have is that eating problems and disorders it's only a girl's thing. That's an assumption, and it is not right. There are people of different ages, even men experience eating disorders. For some men, food could be a huge problem or trigger to them. So let's not assume anything. Don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions about their progress when they're either looking healthier or they look like they're thinner or they're gaining weight. Don't make any assumptions. And then if you are a part of their family, make meal times as stress-free as possible. Don't sit and stand on their shoulder and make sure that they eat, or force them to eat, or cut them off when they're eating. Okay, so make meal times as stress-free as possible. And then you can also plan other activities that are not necessarily, they don't necessarily have to do with food, right? So maybe birthdays, celebrations of some form, holidays. If you're getting involved in all those things, they don't necessarily need to revolve around food. I know that food is a family staple, but you can go to the park, you can take a walk, you can go bowling or play sports or do something. But the point is not necessarily sitting and eating. Okay. And then lastly, help people that are going through eating disorders, help them find good information, speak to nutrition coaches or nutrition experts, wellness experts, and help them to avoid bad information. you know, there's good and there's bad. So in terms of information, bad information could be stereotypes, assumptions, things that encourage them not to eat right. I believe we are done. Does anybody have any questions for me? We did maybe 58 minutes. It's a bit extensive, but I do believe I was able to cover a lot of things. If you need further help or coaching, please send a DM or a private message to us at the Soul Clinic online, or